Okay, people, this is the Cold War notes. You can choose to listen to me talk at the front or watch this screencast. The Cold War was from 1947 to 1991. It basically came about after World War II, and it was between the Soviet Union, or the USSR, and the United States. Cold War versus hot war. So a Cold War is where basically nations create a strain that has the potential to lead to violence, but doesn't actually involve direct fighting. So we never like went after Russia and directly fought against them. That's opposed to a hot war, which involves armed conflict between nations, fightings, missiles, gunfire, armies. There were hot wars that took place during the Cold War, but the Cold War between the US and USSR never actually had a hot war aspect between those two countries. It was a Cold War because we never fought the USSR. We fought them indirectly. The start of the Cold War was at the end of World War II. Eastern and Western allies divided and administered Germany. So this is where we have East and West Germany. This took place, if any of our soccer players, you know, if you look back at World Cup, you'll see West Germany and you'll see East Germany. West Germany was democratic. East Germany was communist, and they aligned with the Soviet Union. So at the start of the Cold War, there was a huge power struggle between who's going to join the communist side and who's going to join the democratic West. So anytime you think West, think democratic. Anytime you think East, think communist. The I Am a Jelly Donut is a video you can go watch. That's basically when President John F. Kennedy went, and he basically has said, Ich bin ein Berliner, which means I am a Berliner. But the way he did it with his accent, people in the crowd thought he was saying, I am a jelly donut. Here's the division one more time. You can see that you have West Germany and East Germany. Berlin was also split in half, but it resided in East Germany. So it was split in half, West and East Berlin, but it was inside of East Germany. So it was the only democratic part. West Berlin was the only democratic part in all of East Germany. Here is the main, summed up combatants. You could say the United States were capitalists. That was the root of the Cold War, was capitalist versus communist. Representative democracy versus dictatorship. So we elect our leaders rather than them choosing to become the leader. And then we have freedom versus limited freedom. Both wanted to extend these ideologies worldwide and have spheres of influence. You can see that on the bottom. Spheres of influence. So this is the basic split between the two. We're not going to get into all the small little details, but it's important to know most of Eastern, and you can see in red all of the Warsaw Pact countries, which were countries that aligned with the Soviet Union, and then also NATO countries or allies, which are blue. The one thing you'll notice is that there are a lot of communist governments that tried to rise in South America and Central America, despite most of the countries being allies of the United States. Soviet Union began to consolidate power in Eastern Europe. We have East versus West. Remember that. The United States attempts to contain communism. That was their big plan, was to contain it. Okay? So they were trying to contain communism and just stop the spread of it. Truman Doctrine was containment. Marshall Plan, the U.S. gave $17 billion to help rebuild Europe. Anybody who wanted some of that money, it was kind of an influence, like, hey, we'll give you $17 billion. How about you become democratic now that you're, recovering from World War II and all that kind of stuff. So it was a way for us to influence other countries. The global conflict played out in two major areas, the Korean War and then also the Vietnam War. So both of these were hot wars, which were direct conflict. Now, in neither one of these wars were U.S. soldiers fighting Russian soldiers, but at the same time, they were indirectly fighting each other, because in the Korean War, we have North and South Korea. Soviet Union was supporting the North, we were supporting the South. Same thing in Vietnam. Soviet Union was supporting North Vietnam, we were supporting South Vietnam. Both South Vietnam and South Korea were democratic, and North was communist. So like you have East-West, North and South happened at this time as well. Here are some crises of the Cold War. You can take a look at these at your leisure. The Cuban Missile Crisis is a big one, where Cuba pointed missiles at us right off our border. The Soviet Union and the Berlin Wall fell in 1991. Other major issues, we have the space race, we have spies, the arms race, sports and sports. Those are all links to videos. One is Rocky. You also have the space race, spies, the arms race. Nuclear weapons were a part of the Cold War, but were not everything. And you can see this at the top. The Cold War was cultural and technological. We're better than you in every way. We were just competing with the Soviet Union in every aspect. You can fill this out, KWL, at your leisure, and that is the end of the notes.